If you think I look the same as I did in my past video, you're right. I just changed my shirt. It is finally time to talk about my favorite books that happened in 2016. These aren't my favorite books that came out in 2016. These are the favorite books that I've read in 2016. And let me tell you, 2016, it wasn't a super good reading year for me. I don't know why. I wish it was better, but it wasn't. I think it's just because I was doing a lot this year, and I was spending a lot of time writing, and also going to college. That was a big adjustment, but I'm gonna try to read a lot more in 2017. Without further ado, here we go. It's a short list. Number 8 on my list is called The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith, and I'm pretty sure this is her debut novel, so it was a fantastic debut. This is one of those stories that just like grabs you from the first page with its emotions, and you get so connected to the characters, specifically the main character, because this book is about a girl and her experience and changes and just herself through high school, because in her freshman year she was raped by one of her brother's friends, and the book is divided into 4 parts for each year of high school, and so it's just her discovering herself, coping with what happened and dealing with it, trying to love herself again, I guess. Just knocked the wind out of me. It was amazing. It was one of those books that just like kind of changes the way you think, but you can't really pinpoint how. Next up is CINDER by Marissa Meyer, and I just put CINDER on here because I didn't want to put all the other books. I've only read the first 2 books, and I got halfway through the 3rd book before I moved to college, and that just kind of made me stop reading everything I was reading. But if you don't know what CINDER is about, I think I talked about it in a wrap-up I did earlier in 2016. This series is basically a fairy tale retelling of different stories. Cinder is Cinderella, Scarlet is Red Riding Hood, Cress is Rapunzel, and Winter is Snow White. The first book was really simple and like very, very engaging, and it made me want to read more, but I wasn't in love with it. But then I got to the 2nd book, and the world just exploded. It got so much bigger and so much more dangerous and so much more interesting, and oh my gosh, it was just the biggest like shift in world building, and I loved it. Oh my goodness, it was so good. Anyway, next up, Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. I love Tahereh Mafi, if you don't know already. She wrote the Shadow Me series, which I talk about in my favorite books of 2015. It is so different from Shadow Me. It's a middle grade instead of a young adult, so it's a lot more like PG. It's just such a beautifully written book. Tahereh's writing, let me tell you, her writing is just the most poetic. It's every line hits you like a freight train. Anyway, Furthermore is about a young girl who lives in this world of magic and color, but she herself is colorless. Her skin is white, her hair is white. The only thing that is colorful are her eyes, which are kind of goldish, and the clothes. She dresses very colorfully. And in this world of everything being colorful, everyone kind of stays away from her. She's an outsider because people think she's dull and less than them, and her father goes missing, and her father was kind of her #1 fan, the person that always believed in her, and so she has to go on an adventure to find her father with an unlikely companion. It's such a cute, feel-good read. Just read it. You'll fly through it in like a second. It was so good. Next up is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about because I have a book talk about it, which you can check out. This book is the first book in a series, but if you know Cassandra Clare, you have to read all of her other series before reading this one, or else you won't understand what's happening. You just won't. Next up is Passenger, which was like the first or second book I read this year, and I did a whole book talk about it, so you can check that out if you want. It's basically a treasure hunt through time, and if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Number 3 is A Court of Mist and Fury, which I have a double book talk for here, where I talk about the first book and the second book. And let me tell you, if you read A Court of Thorns and Roses and didn't like it, I was you. I did not like A Court of Thorns and Roses very much. I had so many problems with it. The second book almost sort of explained all the things I didn't like in the first book. The world gets so much bigger, the story gets so much more elaborate, and the characters get so much more intense and complex. If you don't know what any of this series is about, I definitely recommend going to my book talk on it where I talk about it in depth, but it's Sarah J. Maas, which is one of my all-time favorite writers. She wrote the Throne of Glass series, so. And number 2 is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. The thing I love about Sabaa Tahir's writing is that it's really different from a lot of other YA authors. While it takes place in a fantasy sort of realm. It's a lot darker than any other YAs. Sarah J. Maas's books, they all take place in fantasy realms, and they're all like, they got some dark spots and stuff, but the darkness is sort of like, it's got that fairy tale-esque to it. With the darkness, you kind of know that everything's sort of gonna end up okay. It doesn't seem real, but Sabaa Tahir's darkness and her stories, it feels very real, like, and raw and brutal, and I don't even know how to describe it, but this series is amazing. I did a book talk about A Torch Against the Night, and I talk about An Ember in the Ashes in my book talk, so if you want to know, like, the plot and stuff and all that, then check it out. And number 1 took me by surprise. I think this was, like, the first book I read this year. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I never read her other series, the Grisha trilogy, even though it takes place in the same world as the Six of Crows novel does. I talk about this in the wrap-up that I keep talking about, so if you want to check me out talking about it, you can click it. It's a heist novel that surrounds these 6 kids. They're children. Like, one of them's like 16, and just they go through so much crap. I'm like, how are you this young and still, like, able to get out of bed in the morning? If you like heist novels, because I personally do, I love, like, the planning. It's so fun to watch a plan unfold, especially if you as a reader aren't really sure what the plan is, but, like, you know it's gonna go well because these people are geniuses. And this is definitely one of those stories where the characters are so, you fall in love with them so much, they carry the story. Like, the plotline is amazing, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic, but you fall in love with the characters more than you fall in love with the story. Well, that concludes my favorite books of 2016. What year are we in, Abby? I hope you enjoyed. I'm probably gonna make a video about my most anticipated reads of this coming year, 2017, because there's so many books coming out. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are too. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.